welcome all participants to the first webinar in our series about business process as a service. I can see there are about 10 participants already. I know that some more are registered, so I assume that in the next couple of minutes some other participants may join us. The webinar is structured in the following way: that you are in listening modus, so I can talk. I hope that you can hear me. And in case you would like to raise questions, I kindly ask you to use the chat function. So in case you don't know me, that's my picture. And here I hope that on your screen is something like in the red box, the chat. And if you use this one, that I am aware that you are raising a question or I should change something. For example, speaking up a bit or slowing down or rephrasing. So please use the chat to interact with me. We have about 30 minutes. I assume that we need about 20 minutes for the presentation, and then we have a couple of minutes for questions and answers. Please do not see this as an intensive discussion platform, but it's like a short and quick overview of the project. And we hope with some other webinars, upcoming webinars, we can complete the picture of the project. So what I would like to discuss is first a short introduction of the CloudSocket project. I would then like to spend 1 or 2 minutes on the business process as a service design. And then, of course, there will be a summary and a short question-answer section via the chat. Now, in order to start, I would like to start by searching for CloudSocket. So this gets us to the CloudSocket webpage. Because all the slides we are presenting and preparing in the project are actually online. So I would like to go to the project vision. So in case you would like to make some notes after the webinar, if you would like to come back to 1 or 2 things which I just said, please have here all the material which I would like to briefly go through. Now the idea of business process as a service is that we would like to map business process requirements with cloud offerings. And the challenge is not that this is again a new additional concept in the cloud era. For example, a workflow in the cloud where you can add a couple of services and orchestrate those services, and you talk about interaction with those services. But we would like to also observe the so-called semantic distance coming from a business guy to an IT infrastructure. So having a business process for us means in the business domain a value-added creative sequence of actions of a company. Currently we are using sending invoice as a sample, so we're just finishing the first demonstrator sending invoices. So sending invoices is the first business process which we actually demonstrate in CloudSocket. This means that there will be a workflow, that there will be different offerings, that there will be services that need to interact with each other, and this is on the IT level. So what I would like to strengthen, that our focus is on the so-called business and IT alignment, and we see here different abstraction layers. On the one side we have the business layer. We need to add interaction principles. For example, one activity on the business level, sending an invoice, is split in several technical ones. For example, logging into an email client, uploading the PDF invoice, adding the name, sending the email. So there is a sequence of, for example, several technical instances. So it's a different level of detail. But it's also a different level of language. On a business level, for example, you say, I would only like to work with companies which I trust. So the very heavy word trust needs to be translated in a set of indicators or in a set of rules or in a set of restrictions which the technical infrastructure needs to take care of. And we are exactly looking at this mapping from the domain level to the technical level. So what do we see? We see CloudSocket customers. CloudSocket customers is, let's say, the end user or the end user, as you want to say, who is really using the business process as a service. And here we focus on small and medium enterprises. We also look at startups. And in the ideal case, we would like to look to organizations that do not know cloud and that do not have a lot of IT competence. For example, there is this, I like this very young lady. I think it's somewhere here. Yeah, the ecological agriculture. So that's a 28-year-old woman, and her father has a restaurant and has this waste, so the food waste. And she had the idea that actually she can get this rubbish. Actually, people pay for this rubbish so that she gets rid of the rubbish. And she has some worms, and those worms make hummus. And then she sells the hummus. So she gets paid for the raw material, which is for a restaurant food rubbish. Then she has some worms on a very cheap, let's say, field out there who produce this hummus, and then she sells the product. And we would like to address this 28-year-old biologist and say we have business processes in the cloud, and cloud computing is something valuable for you. So we typically speak with people who has very far away from cloud computing and who do not know anything about this topic. Our idea is then to use business process as a translation, as a mediation aspect, as something to better communicate, something to speak to those guys in their languages. And in the particular case of these biologists, we said, okay, but still you have customers who actually pay, buy your hummus. You have different organizations, warehouses, etc. And you need to establish this communication. So you have a customer relationship, and you need to interact, and you also need to send invoices, and you also make to have orders, and you also need to do maintenance. So these are the processes, and these are the terminology those guys understand. And we would like to have a relief for those people, because saying, please focus on your core competence, focus on your business, and we do the rest for you. So that's the idea of these business processes used as a mediator. And having here this picture, it sees that the key challenge we have to bridge is a so-called semantic distance. The semantic distance is something where on the left side you have a concept model, which is a graphical BPMN model, which is a typical notation for a business process. And on the right side you have a long list of XML lines, which is, we are using the DAML specification. So that's a cloud application markup language, CAML, which is machine interpretable. But independent which notation we are using, you can easily see that on the right side you have a representation which is very familiar for IT experts or for machines, for IT software programs. But on the left side, this is a typical representation you talk with people to. Here you can actually see the two different lanes, so you have the different roles, concepts, different concerns, etc. And the question is, how can we find the right abstraction level here? And this is what the whole project is about, to abstract the technical representation to some level so that we still can group it in a way that business people can understand it. This was actually used in a so-called process modeling aspect, and now we are coming to the second part of the webinar, the so-called business process as a service design. What you see here is a screenshot of a modeling tool, and if you would like to have the modeling tool, please type in ADOxx development space, because ADOxx.org is a worldwide platform hosted from BOC, and we have different development spaces, and as you can see here, the CloudSocket development space. You can click through, and here is an open version. Actually, you can also use this one to further develop it, so you can participate actively. And here you have the different prototypes, and the one I'm just showing you is the last one. So you have some sort of explanation, more details, and here actually the libraries and some other functionalities which step by step you can download. So whatever I show you, you can actually download from this web page. When you have installed, it's like in television, in the kitchen. This is how it looks like. So I need to get right. So for simplification, I start with the business process map. This is a business process map which we created in a so-called deliverable. These are reference models and they are available. So they are available in textual form, but also in model form. So if you would like, from the CloudSocket homepage, you can download it under deliverable. Here we have the different lanes. We have management process, we have core processes, and we have support processes. This is a typical classification in business management. And we said that in SMEs and startups, the management processes are not really, let's say, routine work which you would like to model. Therefore, this is empty. And our guess was that the support processes are the most common one. So based on the use case analysis, you can see of possible potential groups of business processes. You can see the rectangles, and here they are the numbers. For example, customer relationship management, knowledge management, email collaboration, order management, invoicing, etc., etc. So those boxes came out after asking several end users and grouping them. And in addition, in this work, we ask the so-called broker, so organization that hosts the business processes, that publish the marketplace and offer business processes to the end users, which are the business processes you would like to start with, and those they decided they would like to start with are the blue arrows. Now I would like to simply go to one sample, and here we have the after-sales repair management. The after-sales repair management starts, for example, for physical goods, for a gas meter. Organization is selling gas meters and installing gas meters, and if there are any maintenance issues, the customer calls and says there are problems, and then there is a certain flow of how to repair this gas meter. Let's have a look in this business process. So that's a typical way business processes are modeled. We have here the customer relationship group, we have the workers, the repairers, and the warehouse. So this could be considered as departments in an organization. First, it's a manual task to verify the customer is actually valid to ask. If it's not a customer, then we terminate. Otherwise, there will be an assessment how to repair the gas meter. If they have all parts, they start the maintenance. If not, they need to go to the warehouse in order to order the missing parts and then perform actually the maintenance at the side of the customer. And then you have the customer feedback and the business process ends. Now, this is a nice business process, but very insufficient if you would like to put it in the cloud. Therefore, we have a so-called workflow, and the workflow for us is a fully compiled and wired set of software and service invocations, and hence to ease the development we have the notation of a so-called abstract workflow, which explains everything, but still the time-consuming wiring of the concrete services is still left out. So this is something to test actually which business processes are feasible, and also to have an assessment which investment makes sense. As you can see on the very first level, this technical workflow, so it's very close to a workflow, only that the concrete services are not linked to it. But this workflow is much more detailed, and there are additional aspects. First, the lanes are not organizational units anymore, but they are applications. On the other side, we have different data storages that also indicate if they are within the workflow or if they are global data sets, so across different workflows. You have security issues like a ticketing system, login credentials, customer IDs. Here, for example, it's what was one activity before is now a sequence of activity, creating new tickets, etc., etc. Again, here you have additional information if this is something that comes out of the workflow, this is something which is consumed within the workflow and actually then the data set deleted when closing. So this is a much more detailed description, and the question is how can we ease and simplify the modeling and the linkage between those two. And the answer is that we would like to have a semantic technology that links these two together. The semantic technology is called semantic lifting. I only want to give you an appetizer. It's something like a service requirement, which is an object which is then referenced by the business process and by activities. And here you have something like functional descriptions, input-output description, non-functional descriptions like reliability, availability, provide sample service so that you get a better idea of what you actually want to do. You have some scheduling issues. You have additional business requirements, additional indicators for vendor log, for trust, for free comments, and also some regulatory issues. For example, if it's based on some legal issues or compliance issues. This would be a second webinar which will be held by Fachhochschule as the next webinar in this series. So just to give you an invitation if you're interested in that. This description which I just showed you maps this business process with the business process above, so that for example this blue box which says verify customer code validity, this refers then to this service description, and you would like to add the functional requirements, input, output, non-functional requirements, legal issues, compliance issues, trust, etc., to this box. And then there is a mapping that this box is actually mapped, for example, to login statements, etc., or to a full sequence of actions, and say this pattern is linked to the previously described business process. Now, having now the business processes and having now the technical workflows, and please let me name this workflow also that the concrete implementation is not done yet, but in order to show you the difference of the different abstraction layers and how the workflow will run is actually the topic of another webinar early next year when we talk about the workflows and the executable business processes. Now the question is, what is first? Do we start first with the workflow and then say how can we sell an existing workflow to a customer, or is it vice versa, saying we ask the customer what they want and then derive the corresponding workflows to it? And here we distinguish between two approaches. One approach says that we would like to have business processes as a product, which is green, and this business process as a product means that I have something fully implemented, for example, a social media campaign, and then I ask people, are you interested in this social media campaign? Currently we are testing sending Christmas cards because that's a nice scenario and you have a lot of issues, for example, uploaded images that no forbidden symbols are uploaded, the text, if you type Merry Christmas, nobody cares. But if you describe how to build a nuclear bomb, then this is forbidden. The recipient list addresses the legal rights and privacy issues, and of course also the scalability, because everybody wants to send the Christmas card emails at the very same time. So it was a very, let's say, simple but intuitive sample to raise the most urgent issues. And this is a business process as provided as a product. So you do a pre-investment, you build it, and then you send it. The second one would be business process as a consulting, which is here on the other side. Business process as a consulting means that I go with nothing to the customer, ask what the customer wants, then derive the business process, and then make the workflow especially to the customer. And if you do this, you would like to have some patterns. So you're not starting from scratch every time, but you have some reference pattern, for example, login sequences, email sequences, compare sequences, etc., etc. These will be parts of workflows, and this is what we call with an intermediate BPaaS solution, which are not fully business processes, but like patterns and some parts of it. And these are the three distinctions. More or less, the strategy is either to go to offer something like a service now, but using a business process to explain actually what you can do with the service. And on the other side, using the business process to actually specify the concrete need of the cloud offering. And I think the yellow thing in between, the solution, is what is a logical sequence of work. Now, I'm nearly done. All I'm left to say is actually thank you for listening. As you can see, all the slides we have done. I'm just raising this. Please, if you like to follow us, that's our website. We have Twitter. Here you have the ADOxx. You can download for free the design tool. And of course, you can use the design tool to do your implementations. These webinar sequences are very short, so I hope that I was introducing you to the project, and if you're interested, in 1 month we meet each other with Fachhochschule talking about the semantic lifting. Now, any questions? 1 or 2 which can be placed in the chat. Okay, so if this is not the case, I thank you for your attention. Again, I go back to the project webpage. Please also feel free to have a look. Here are the different entry points, and if you would like to see how business process as a service looks from the viewpoint of the customer, you can go here to the demonstration. There are a couple of videos that actually explains this previously mentioned sample business process as a service for Christmas cards. I thank the whole team, the whole consortium for organizing and for all these implementations. And next webinar is on semantic lifting with Fachhochschule, and then we have also a webinar with respect to the marketplace from IMENS, and then also a webinar on the workflow from ADOxx. So looking forward, say goodbye, and thank you for your attention.